So thank you everyone for joining the Apprenticeship Illinois Lunch and Learn webinar series. Today we're hearing from LWIA 10, John Hall, and promising practices in their area. And then, John, I will hand it off to you. Take it away.
Well, thanks, Jordan. And thanks everyone for coming out today. Like Jordan mentioned, I am John Hall. I'm the Business Services Supervisor over here at the Workforce Services Division of Will County, also known as LWIA 10. So just jumping right into it. Let me get this here. So our office does operate as the one-stop operator. So we do have partners on site. We'll go into a little bit on how that really helped me in this journey. Definitely having partners on site. But in terms of some of our other services, we have a great resource room for job seekers to come in and out, utilize the computers, job search assistants, get help with their resume. We also do workshops, career planning, the whole 9 yards on top of our our career scholarships, which is a huge program that a ton of Will County residents have been utilizing as of late. And on top of that, we do our business services as well, which I'll go into a little bit more on my next slide. So starting off, a little bit of like the baseline of what we do on the business services team revolves around employee training. So we do different training grants, whether that be incumbent worker training, on the job training, this new apprenticeship grant. But on top of that, I like to tell our businesses we serve as kind of a consultant. So whatever, if they have a question on, wages, or if they want to know some data as it pertains to different shifts, if they want to add a shift onto their business, if they want to know what the average wage for a certain shift in a certain industry is, we provide that sort of stuff like that. So like I said, I tell our businesses to use me and my team as a consultant. If you need whatever you might need, come to us, and if we don't have the exact answer, we probably have a connection that could probably get that for you. So going into it, as it pertains to the Apprenticeship Illinois expansion grant this year, I wanted to start off with some challenges. So number one, this is our first year ever writing for and getting this grant, so it's been a huge learning curve. Definitely trying to adopt the apprenticeship framework and figuring out how to speak to businesses and gain that buy-in was a challenge for sure. Starting off trying to figure out what terminology to use, how businesses react to it, all sorts of stuff like that. But on top of just the general being new to the framework, we had a few different challenges. So staff changes. We had a couple staff members leave. We were planning on maybe hiring a new person with the grant funding, and that didn't end up going through. So it was kind of a one-man show with me for a while there, trying to do everything with the businesses. And what I encountered there was the business buy-in early on, trying to figure out like some businesses would be like, man, like this sounds great. I know you have incentive funding, but we're just not in any position to add on a whole new aspect to our business at the time. Or I would get, some really good progress with businesses, and then communication would just drop off. And like I said, there was a lot of uncertainty of it being the right fit for a company. Because when I was speaking to businesses, they would often think of these apprenticeship programs as the first thing that would come to mind were unions, whether it be electricians, carpenters, operators, the whole 9 yards. They're thinking manual labor, our traditional union trades going into apprentices. When I was really trying to hone in on getting them to realize that it doesn't have to be just those union organizations, just those trade organizations. We could literally customize it to be just about anything. And one more challenge was apprentice recruitment. That could go along with just about any challenge in a business right now, is finding the right people. These are the main challenges we encountered early on, especially early on, I should say, with regards to the apprenticeship framework. So to combat the challenges, we did an event here. We call it our Apprenticeship Advantage event. So we held this back during National Apprenticeship Week. We had Dr. Kelly Lapatino come out and give the apprenticeship proclamation. And it was a really great event. We had breakfast for everybody. And it was a good panel because we had two business representatives, whether it be owners or higher up representatives in the companies on site. So they were part of our panel. I was on the panel, and then one of our ATRs of our area, Meredith Thetford, was also on the panel. And then the event was in partnership with IMEC, Illinois Manufacturing Excellence Center. So they actually led the panel and asked the questions and went through. I think we had about 20 to 30 businesses involved in the room there, trying to get involved. So it was really great to hear the insight from those current businesses that have operated an apprenticeship, along with examples from Amy with IMEC, who works with a ton of different businesses, and Meredith, who worked with a ton of different businesses. So we had that insight on our end, with like the data on the benefits of apprenticeships, and how to start one up, and the ins and outs of figuring out what you want to do in terms of an apprenticeship. And then we also had two in-person live examples of people that have utilized it and ran it through all the way through registration, reporting, the whole 9 yards, and had nothing but good things to say about it. So we use that to, combat those challenges. Like I said, we were encountering that list of challenges I said before over here. Staff changes, business buy-in was a huge one, and communication throughout the build out. Once we were able to get these businesses in front of real world examples and real world data and see, and we could explain to them how the process would go and where I come in, where Meredith comes in, and how we take the burden off them, essentially entirely. So that was a huge aspect, and we gained a ton of interest from that event alone. So we can go right into some employers that we have registered programs with. So I really want to hit on, for me, especially being new to the grant, and relatively new to the industry as well, the biggest thing for me was utilizing our connections, or utilizing my connections. Like I mentioned earlier, we have our partners on site, that I can kind of bounce ideas off of, or they could come to me. And like for example, this first one with KE Distributors. This was actually through a partnership and a referral from our partners at DRS, the Division of Rehabilitation Services. So the past couple of years, we've had a pretty big initiative on inclusive hiring for people with disabilities. In the past couple of years, we've planned what's called an ability career fair, which was specifically for hiring people with disabilities. And we've put on workshops, employer workshops, to bring in employers to learn about, what's the word I'm looking for? Just learning about it, educating themselves on hiring people with disabilities, whether it be the misconceptions of people with disabilities, the benefits of hiring people like that, and how to navigate it using your resources like DRS, things like that. So we established a pretty good partnership working on that initiative. And then they happened to come to me with this company, KE, who was really interested in building out a part of their business that was specific for people with disabilities, which is really cool to see, especially after going through those different workshops and ability career fairs in the past. To have an employer that comes to us and says, "Hey, we want to take the initiative and we want to build a section of our business specifically for people with disabilities." So that's how it started. There wasn't even really any apprenticeship talks at first. It was more so just like, "Hey, John, how could you help us build a program like this?" So through talks, we looped in Meredith. I believe Melissa's on this call as well. Melissa Veach, another excellent ATR in our area. We were able to kind of figure out that the apprenticeship model might be the perfect fit to build something like this. So through our talks, we've kind of had to expedite a little bit. I believe it's through going through registration as we speak, just looking for approval. But they now have 3 registered apprenticeship occupations. So they have one program with 3 occupations underneath. Yeah, and so the occupations they're all warehouse positions. There's going to be a warehouse turret operator, which is a general cherry picker position where they're up in the forklift and pulling things off the shelves, whatever the case may be. Then they have a general warehouse technician, and then they have a general warehouse picker and packer. And I believe that's where the picker and packer, that's where the disability employment would come in. So a couple excellent occupations they have set up already. And like I said, this all came through them reaching out to us due to our past initiatives, and then me looping in our partners that are such big helps and can help with the official registration and answering those different questions and like that. Let me see if there's a Yep. There, I just saw your message, Melissa. I'm gonna hit on it a bunch this whole presentation. But utilize your ATRs and just maintain that communication. If I didn't have Melissa and Meredith, like I said, with me being new to the grant, I would be totally lost right now. They were a huge help in all of these programs, and they still refer businesses over to us. So use your ATRs, get connected with them, and use their knowledge. They're excellent with what they do. Next one up, the H&H die manufacturing. So this was another one, actually kind of in the build out stage with this one as well. But this was a referral from our partners at the Center of Economic Development. So they came to me, we had a meeting, and they had a program years ago, like 15, 20 plus years ago, that their owner had gone through. And they heard about us, I believe, through the event, through our Apprenticeship Advantage event. And they were interested in seeing if they could get the program back up and running. So thankfully enough, I actually have it right here. They have their old Appendix A and work process schedules here. So I was just kind of able to take these and just remodel the program for modern day to get them up and going. So that was an easy one. Like I said, when it comes down to it, when you have referral programs set up with your partners, with your local centers for economic development or local partners, local chambers, whatever the case may be, they hear about stuff like this and they're like, oh, we had something like this in the past. Let's plug it back in and see if we can get it back up and going, especially if John has funding for us to kind of offset that upfront cost. And I'll stay on here. This one actually isn't on the slide, but one we just registered last week, AA Medical in Mokina up here by us. Another one that was just they had a program in the past and they either saw us on social media or heard about us through another one of our local businesses or saw the event, whatever the case may be, and they came out to us as well. And it was for surgical instrument repair technicians. Excuse me. Same case. The guy who was the manager of the instrument care division of the business, he had gone through an apprenticeship program with a different company years in the past, and that company no longer had the apprenticeship program, but he wanted to start it back up for his team. So like ones like this, it was just a quick meeting. He had all the information from their past apprenticeship program, the whole 9 yards, from the appendices to the work process schedules to their tuition materials, the whole 9 yards. He had it all the way spelled out. So we were literally able to just to kind of plug and play, figure out based on the incentive of how many employees they were going to be hiring, the costs affiliated with those apprentices, and then give them their incentive and wipe our hands with it, and we're out the door. So just a testament to the partnerships we've built over here. Go on to the next one. So a couple of these ones, these two are interesting because they started off as IWT projects, incumbent worker projects. And I really enjoyed working on it like this because it was cool to go into a business who obviously we've spoken to these companies about IWT before. But once they sent back the application and I was able to see what trainings they had in mind, I was able just to call them up and be like, hey, do you have time for a quick 30-minute meeting with me to stop out there? So I would drive out and I would say, hey, I know this IWT project, you had it for nurses, or for Giseki Endeavor and up top, it was for maintenance mechanics. and they were going to be doing a year long of continuous improvement, continuous education while they're doing their on-the-job learning. And they thought of it only as an incumbent worker training program, just based on the conversations we had before. But just sitting down with them and getting them to realize, like, hey, if you are sending your employees through training and they're currently working and you're going to be doing it for a year long already, why would we not shape this as an apprenticeship program? And just through those conversations, we were able to build it out, get it registered. Their sponsors IMEC. So just generally educating them on what the apprenticeship framework is and how it differs from incumbent worker training and how it can be better in the long run for a business made a huge, huge leap in terms of what they foresaw for the future. So they want now, in talks with them, they want to expand apprenticeships throughout various roles in their organization. Inside the office, on the shop floor, multiple different maintenance mechanic positions. They want to do some HR position apprenticeships. So once they saw that framework and really bought into one program, they saw the ROI and the return and the whole 9 yards. So they wanted to continue. So we're going to help them out and building out as we go. Another one, same situation, Advent Health Bolingbrook. This one was awesome. We were working on this project, I mean, I want to say 4 or 5 months total. I know hospitals are a little tricky with programs like this. There's a lot of hoops to jump through and a lot of different people we have to get approval from, the whole 9 yards. So this was another one who they had hired consultants, and the consultants came to us to try and do an incumbent worker training for nurses, essentially a nurse's residency program. And while looking at it, again, just like Gesicki and Debrant, while looking at it, I was like, this is an apprenticeship program. I mean, you guys, they just didn't say it. They built it all the way out and spelled it all the way out, but they just didn't say this is an apprenticeship program. So got them connected with our ATRs, Meredith and Melissa, really educated them on the apprenticeship framework, and they're officially registered. The incentive has been delivered to them, and they couldn't be more thrilled to have this program. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Advent Health, I believe they have 4 or 5 hospitals in this region. So they have Advent Health Bolingbrook, which is in Will County. They have Hinsdale, Advent Health Hinsdale, which is either Cook or DuPage. And then they have a couple more. The names are escaping me at this moment. But they're using our model that we used on the Will County location, the Bolingbrook Advent Health, and they're expanding it across all of their locations. So they love this nurse's residency, and they loved how it, shapes what the nurses, how they want the nurses to work and get their experience. So they're expanding it across all of them. So that one was a really cool story. I'm really happy to see how that, flourishes throughout the years. And we have plans to work with them in the future on different initiatives like this as well. We have a few more new programs on the horizon, actively working with these different businesses. Pace Suburban Bus, they're another one of our big partners, but we're working on building a possible diesel mechanic apprenticeship with them. Hopewell Academy, this one is a pretty interesting one. We're in the early stages of talking out a possible apprenticeship program for some summer school classes. This one is for gen ed teachers getting their LBS 1 endorsement to also be special ed teachers. So pretty cool program there. NFI Industries, similar to Pace Suburban Bus, they're looking to start up a diesel mechanic and CDL driver apprenticeships. And then Allied Valve is another local one out here in Joliet. They are in the process of registering an engine lathe operator apprenticeship. So we're still actively talking to businesses, still trying to get out there and engage with as many different companies, as many different industries as we can, and getting out in the community for whatever the case may be. So here's some of the lessons. This is what I'll finish on. Some of the lessons I've learned through this. Definitely been a huge learning experience. I've learned more in this past year about apprenticeships than I mean, I ever could imagine in my life that I would learn about. So biggest things is one size doesn't fit all. Early on, I was kind of utilizing the same pitch, the same verbiage, the whole 9 yards with whatever business I was going into to speak with. And that wasn't really working. You kind of have to tailor it. You have to prepare yourself beforehand and see whether it's a manufacturing business or a transportation business. And get what I'd like to do is I'd print out an example of a work process schedule from somewhere else, just of a position in that company. It might not even be a position they were looking to make an apprenticeship program, but just for them to see, like, hey, this is what a work process schedule looks like. Take a look at this. We could take this and we can edit it to your business. So one size doesn't fit all. You want to make sure you're customizing your pitch and what you're doing based on the business you're going in and visiting. Flexibility is a huge one as well. So being able to answer questions or respond to concerns makes a huge difference. This definitely made a difference with our Advent Health Bolingbrook one and our Giseki and Devrant programs, because Giseki and Devrant, they're actually a credit card manufacturer. So they're a super secure, hyper secure company with a ton of different legal hoops to jump through, and they would have to give me a call and say, hey, we need a different form because we need to have 2 signatures on this form. Or Advent Health would come back to me and say, hey, we need to pass this through the nursing department, and then we need the CEO to sign off on it as well. So just going in, being able to answer those calls and being able to run out there at a moment's notice for whatever the case may be was a huge help from what I saw. This is always a huge one. Clear ROI. Businesses want data. It's just as simple as that. They're not going to be so inclined to listen to you if you're just going in and saying, hey, you want to start up an apprenticeship program? They're pretty cool. The state is really into them right now. I think you should start one out. No, they want to hear the ROI. They want to hear the numbers in terms of retention, in the apprentices, the lessons learned from those apprentices in the whole 9 yards. So those businesses want the ROI. And lastly, I know I've hit on it a bunch throughout this whole presentation, but it's connections. Like I said, I would be lost without all the connections I've made here and those that have helped me out with whatever the case may be. So establishing those connections with community partners, you'd be surprised how far they can take you, and the referrals you get, in the option, the different programs you'll have access to just through making those relationships with your community partners. So yeah, that's the story from LWIA 10. We're still actively working on recruiting, still actively engaging different businesses and learning a lot as we go. But appreciate all the help from everybody and all our different connections. So I'll open it up to questions now. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to go into it.
If you're unable to come off mute, you can always put them in the chat as well. Nate, while we wait to see if anyone raises their hand or types something in the chat, do you have any questions for John?
Yeah, so John, I want to thank you so much for sharing with us today, and thank you for stressing the importance of working with the ATRs. Has anything surprised you in doing this apprenticeship work? I think you mentioned one thing that I think employers often are surprised by, which is how similar apprenticeship is to these models they're already implementing. But in addition to that, is there anything about either the process of working with an employer on developing a program, registering a program that you think would be worth sharing?
Yeah. What has surprised me? Honestly, based on my early on interactions with businesses, so it was a lot of like this is going back almost a year ago at this point. When I first kind of rolled it out and started speaking to businesses, it was a lot of just lack of interest and lack of, they're just like, you know what, man, like not for us. Like we're a manufacturer. We're not a trades union. We're not going to do an apprenticeship. So what I found surprising is and this goes into kind of what you said there again, Nate, is once I looped in our ATRs like Meredith and Melissa, who could really answer all those questions that I wasn't really able to answer based on um, my experience. I obviously just didn't know a ton early on. I was surprised at how quickly businesses bought in after we looped in the ATRs. And once we were able to get those questions started and like answered and get a work process schedule ready to go, it seemed like the businesses were really engaged from there. It was the biggest challenge for me was getting to that point. So once I realized the ATRs were on my side, it was smooth sailing from there essentially.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
One more question from me. So sorry. You obviously you guys were new to the apprenticeship world with this grant cycle. What advice would you offer any local workforce areas or community colleges or organizations looking to get into the apprenticeship game, as it were? What would your advice to them be?
I can't hit on it enough. Connect with your community members, your ATRs. The biggest thing for me that set it apart was so we have our integrated business services team down here in Will County, where we have members of the like Joliet Junior College, DRS, ATRs from DOL. A couple more are escaping me right now, but we have a pretty robust integrated business services team, and we added Meredith to it probably a couple of years ago or a year or so ago, before we even really got into the apprenticeship framework. So just having those regular meetings and meeting up with your people, even if you don't have like anything on the agenda, just to meet up and say like, hey, we're thinking about writing for this apprenticeship grant. Like, what do you guys think? How do you think you guys could fit into this? And how do you think we could help businesses? Have you ever used it before? Things like that. Um, and then the power of holding events too. I mean, look, we held that apprenticeship advantage event, and it gained more interest than I could have ever imagined. So just getting out and not just holding your own events, but if you see whether it be a job fair, a chamber event, or just a general community event, I've gone out just printed out a bunch of flyers based on the apprenticeship framework, and just gone into a job fair and walked around the different booths and been like, hey, have you guys ever had an apprenticeship before? No. Okay. Well, here's what it's a little bit about. I know your company is X. We've worked with companies like X where we could build out a program and tailor it to you and the whole 9 yards. So I would say the biggest thing if you're trying to get into this framework, connect with your local connections, especially those ATRs, anyone affiliated with apprenticeships, and then plan events and go to events. Even if you don't think you know what you're doing, you can go in and learn from the other people that have. That was a big thing for me. I'm looking at Bonnie's message here. Yeah, so companies they would kind of go back on the 144 hours of classroom learning. The way I would combat that from them, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I would just tell them like think about over the course of a year, an apprenticeship program has to be at least a year. 144 hours over the course of a year. What does that amount to? Like, I don't want to. That's less than 5 hours a week. I mean, you could do a half a day, one day for an apprentice, 2 or 3 hours in one day a week. Once I broke it down, because it does sound like a lot, 144 hours of classroom learning. They're like, oh shoot, we need our people to work. We can't be sending them to the classroom all the time. Once you break it down to them on how little that is over the course of a year or over the course of the program, they were able to buy in a little bit more from there. And you could go into how a lot of training can go into that classroom training portion. So whether it be safety training that they would normally do already, or on the job training that they had already had in place, that could count towards those different training hours. So educating them on where they could get the training hours and how feasible it is broken down across a year or 2 year program. That was the biggest thing for me combating that objection.
Right. Last call. Otherwise, we can wrap up for today.
I know I've shouted her out already, but shout out Melissa, our ATR down here in Will County. She's the best. If you need any questions or have any questions for her, I'm sure she could answer it. Same thing with our girl Meredith down here as well. We appreciate the work they do much more than you guys could ever imagine.
Yeah. And appreciate you, John, for doing work in your area as well, working with being a team player and all of that. Awesome. Melissa just put her contact info in the chat. As a reminder, this will be posted online later, and the email link will be sent out to you once it's posted on the website along with the slide deck. So if you miss any of this information, want to revisit it or share it with someone else, you will absolutely be able to do that. And thanks again, John and Nate, for joining today. And everyone, have a good rest of your afternoon.